Anthony Watkin, known as Andy Watkin, has worked with UK census data to estimate how pro-EU our population is, right down to a very local level. He's grouped the population into subtly differentiated groups and subgroups using demographic profiles he has developed after surveying the literature. UKPEN, the UK pro-European network, calls Andy's approach the Barcelona method for short, as Andy lives in Barcelona now. For a limited period, all groups linked to UKPEN can purchase the Barcelona data for their constituencies at half price. On the 23rd of June 2016, the UK voted to leave the European Union by 51.89% to 48.11%. Despite all the controversies surrounding the Vote Leave campaign, and despite all our campaigning for a second referendum, the government finally took us out on the 31st of January 2020. A transition period, during which nothing changed, ended on the 31st of December 2020, and the rules governing the new relationship between the EU and UK began to take effect on the 1st of January 2021. Today, we are where we are. According to the government, Brexit is done, and it is time to benefit from our newfound freedom. But the realization is beginning to set in that we can't have our cake and eat it, and that Brexit was a mistake. In February 2022, the combined results of all the polls indicate that 52% of voters would now vote to rejoin the EU. Pro-European campaigning groups can be confident of their eventual prospects of success, but may be casting about for the best way to direct their efforts as we attempt to get through to more people. How do we find those who can be persuaded? Well, we all think we know who voted leave, or at least what sort of people voted leave. They were the uneducated who didn't know better and believed everything they were told. Right-wing extremists who can't tolerate anything that is different to their idea of Britain and how it should be. The elderly who want the life they don't really remember before we joined the EU. The very rich who want to avoid EU regulations and a country where they can benefit without constraints. But all of these are in fact social stereotypes constructed from a misunderstanding of snippets of research, just as Remain voters are supposed all to be left-wing snowflakes who live in cloud cuckoo land. The Barcelona method aims to uncover the reality behind all the misconceptions and determine the extent to which people are likely to support the EU in granular geographic detail. A more detailed explanation of the method used to establish pro-EU estimates and demographic profiles is available to you. But in simple terms, the profiles were based on academic research to find how people can be grouped together in relation to their feelings about the EU. Over 200 variables were used, covering education, age, occupation, disposable income, religion, ethnicity, housing, location, and many more. This was all subjected to statistical analyses to sort small areas into different groups. The results of the model tell us with some degree of certainty how likely the people in small areas are across England and Wales to be supportive of the EU. So, it tells us where to target efforts to promote closer ties and an eventual return to the EU. The map shows the difference in pro-EU estimates for local authorities across England and Wales. The light red areas are very highly likely to have a large proportion of residents who are pro-European. The darkest areas are likely to contain relatively few. Across the East Midlands, most of Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, Lincolnshire and Norfolk show very little EU support. This does not mean there is no one pro-EU in the darkest areas of the East Midlands. The frequency graph shows that, at the worst, the pro-EU estimate is 32%, nearly a third of the population, and for 59% of local authorities, the pro-EU estimate is 50% or higher. But the Barcelona data we can make available to you goes beyond the local authority level and gives you this information and more at a very local level, with each small area containing on average 128 households. In the county of Oxfordshire, for example, with its pro-EU estimate of 45%, we can zoom in on the Witney constituency, which coincides with the West Oxfordshire District Council, which has a pro-EU estimate of 56%. Zooming in even closer, here's the ward called Alverscott and Filkins in the southwest corner. This ward is located just west of RAF Brize Norton and has a population of around 1,700 people. The average pro-EU estimate for this ward is 59.8%. And at this level we can see the small areas within the ward. These are called census output areas, and each one has a unique reference number. We can see that the output areas have their own pro-EU estimate. The table shows this information together with the group, subgroup, population, and the number of households. This information can be used for targeting areas for canvassing, mail shots, poster campaigns, and even to some extent social media targeting. Within this ward, output area E00146492 appears to be a good candidate. Given a pro-EU estimate of nearly 64%, we could expect some measure of success from around 123 households, or at least not have the door slammed in our face. So let's take a closer look at the area and find out about the people who live there. The main areas of habitation in the output area are the small, picturesque villages of Filkins and Broughton Pogs. These are typical small Cotswold villages with traditional stone-built houses. The people who live here all fall into Group 8 in the socio-demographic profiles. This group is one of the largest groups in England and Wales, making up around 15% of the entire population. They are rural inhabitants with high rates of married couples, and most people own their own homes. In this particular area, the residents are categorized as subgroup 8B. Ethnic minorities are seldom found in these areas, and housing is either detached or semi-detached. They are relatively affluent, with more than half of families owning 2 or more cars. They tend to be professional people, often working in high-tech industries. The average pro-EU estimate for this subgroup is around 50%, but for this particular area, it stands at almost 64%. For people in this type of area, local influences and peer pressure can play an important part in political perspectives. A sense of belonging is important in low population density villages, and word of mouth is a valuable marketing tool. Convince the right people, and they will convince the rest. The socio-demographic profiles and pro-EU estimates from the Barcelona method are currently available at a specially reduced price for all groups linked to the UK pro-European network, UCPEN. UCPEN Limited are the sole distributors of the Barcelona method material. The data includes raw data for every output area in your constituency of interest, a series of shapefiles and KML files to give you access to detailed maps, which you can use with Google Earth, Google Maps, as well as more advanced geographic systems. A report summary for every ward in the area is included, and a full copy of the pen portraits describing all the groups and subgroups. So we encourage you to share this presentation around your core group and make an initial inquiry to register your interest. To get more information about pricing and to secure your copy of the data, please contact UCPEN at the email address shown. Thank you for listening.